So President Trump announced some new executive orders. This is a few days ago now. And there appears to be some misreporting about what it all means in the media. So they're basically just being a stenographer, and they're doing his propaganda for him and portraying the executive orders in the best possible light for him. Now, some people have pointed out this is basically like a Hail Mary for the election. He thinks that if he takes some of these steps that it's going to help him in the election, so that's why he's doing it. But again, the devil is in the details, so we're going to go to our buddy Jeff Stein from Washington Post. He does a wonderful job, one of the best reporters out there. He says the following: the first executive order on evictions. No eviction moratorium or new rental money, asks HUD, Housing and Urban Development, to consider if evictions should stop. Now, on this one, the media is just saying that, oh, Trump is, doing a moratorium on evictions. That's not true. The devil is in the details, and the details say pretty clearly that it's not an eviction moratorium, and he's recommending that the government consider if eviction should stop. It's weasel words throughout the whole thing. The second thing is unemployment. He's using $44 billion from FEMA to cover $300 a week in a benefit for 5 more weeks. So the $600 unemployment benefit ran out. Trump is stepping in and saying, I'm going to use FEMA money to pay people $300 a week. Now, the media is reporting this as, I believe, like $400 a week. It's not $400 because the other $100 is supposed to come from the states, and the states basically don't have the money. I'm sure it's a different scenario when you go state by state, and maybe, the reality changes a little bit depending on which state you look at, but it's FEMA money, $300 a week to extend the unemployment benefit. Now, this is good, but it ain't nearly enough, and it's effectively a cut, and this is not going to be able to keep people in their houses, and this is not going to be able to, this isn't enough for people to pay the bills that they owe. The third thing is taxes. There's an option to defer payroll tax payment, but without new law, they'll still be due. So this is the big thing that Trump's Wall Street goons in his administration are pushing for. They want to basically, eliminate the payroll tax, which is really an attempt to destroy Social Security. So, I mean, it's quite a thing if you think about it. Let's try to destroy Social Security in the middle of a pandemic and a depression, when really the conversation that we should be having is Social Security for all, also known as UBI. But this is Trump listening to his Wall Street insiders who say, oh, this is a good thing and people will love this. No, they won't. This is something for the business owners. This is something for the wealthy. And so this is presented as like, Trump eliminating the payroll tax. But no, again, the specifics are there's an option to defer payroll tax payment, but without a new law, they will still be due. So those are the executive orders. Now, there's one thing he did which I think is definitely good. He extended the deferred student loan payments. So, ideally, you'd wipe them out. I mean, we really should do a debt jubilee, especially when it comes to student loan debt, because that's a very unique kind of debt where you're not allowed to file for bankruptcy. So what Trump stepped in and said, you already have deferred payments for your student loans, but he stepped in and said, I get it. The economy is, well, he didn't say this part because he pretends the economy is great, but he stepped in and said, I get it. I'm going to continue to defer the student loan payments. So that's a positive thing. I wish everything, they'd just go further, but he's not going to do that. And also there are legal questions as to how far he can go on his own through executive orders. I think there's honestly an open legal question as to whether or not he can even do this FEMA move. I actually like the idea in theory of take FEMA money and just give it to people. He's doing it as an unemployment benefit. I would love it as, go further as a stimulus payment, as universal basic income. I like the idea, but remember, guys, Congress has what's called the power of the purse. And so technically, anything that involves spending money has to go through Congress. So if there is indeed a lawsuit over this, it is possible that Trump gets, this gets slapped down. Now, if I was the Democrats, would I sue Trump over this? Of course not. Absolutely not. Because then you set up a situation where you're arguing for less money for people and a Republican president is arguing for more money for people. So, I wouldn't exhaust that option, but I'm sure somebody's going to sue over this, even if it's like a libertarian think tank or something, Cato Institute, whatever. These are people who believe in small government as a matter of principle. And so they'd probably be like, no, you're not allowed to do that. That's unconstitutional. I'm not sure what Rand Paul has said on this, but I'm sure if he hasn't, he will at some point say this is unconstitutional. The president can't just, spend money like this. He's not a unitary executive. He's not the dictator. He can't override Congress and the power of the purse. So, but I think probably the most important point here is this is a Hail Mary pass for his election prospects. And also, there's no new stimulus checks. Now, again, maybe he's like, I don't have the authority to do it, so he didn't do it. But, I think it's still the same legal limbo as using the FEMA money for extending unemployment for 5 more weeks, even at that lower amount of $300 a week. If you're gonna do that, then why not actually go further and do stimulus checks for everybody through executive orders and then make your political opponents try to stop you? Because then again, you come out as, I'm the guy who's fighting for you to get more money, and they don't want you to get more money. So really, the best way to describe this, guys, these are half measures on top of half measures, and it's not nearly enough. There are a handful of good ones, but a lot of this is more window dressing to try to make it look like he's doing more than he is, and he's helping more than he is. But again, the saddest thing is that the media really just kind of went along and were unwitting agents of Trump's propaganda, because the way he framed it is the way that most outlets reported it. And the way he framed it was not true if you actually read the specifics of his own executive orders. So this is kind of like a classic Washington move here of like, at face value, it might appear better than it actually is. So, those are his new executive orders. Again, I like the one of deferring student loan payments. I think that's a good thing. Payroll tax one is terrible. The unemployment one is okay, but questionable, legally speaking, and it should be more if you're going to do it. And then everybody's just wrong about the eviction one. There is no eviction moratorium, and there is no new rental money. He's just asking the government to check to consider if eviction should stop. So, it's a desperate effort. Who knows what kind of an effect it'll have? I do think that there is an argument that Biden could have peaked too early because he really had such a crushing lead for so long. And now you're starting to see some polls slightly nudge in Trump's direction. Now, don't get it twisted. Biden's up like 9 or 10 points. And, the recent round of polls, in the average, maybe Biden's up 7 points, right? So he's still got a pretty big lead. But yes, you are starting to see some polls kind of shift in Trump's direction. Maybe he's getting a better sense of the strategies that might work, because what he's done to this point, it's just been absolutely abysmal. With, Biden is an Antifa Marxist puppet. That's his main line of argument, which is just comical and it's not landing. But, if Trump wakes up and realizes like, oh, what if I just give everybody a universal basic income check? Then we might have a race on our hands, because really the material well-being of the American people is going to override everything. The strategy becomes irrelevant if you have somebody stepping up saying, I'm going to materially help you, because that is good strategy. It's good politics and it's good policy. So if he just wakes up and realizes like, oh, let's just give everybody $2,000 a month for the remainder of the crisis. However, even if he does it in a way that's unconstitutional and they have to sue him to stop it, however he does it, if he puts himself on the side of like, yeah, I'm the guy that's fighting for you and these guys want to stop it, then we really have a race on our hands. Now, I don't think he's there yet. I don't think he's got it yet, but these executive orders are a little bit of a Hail Mary, and he's inching closer to something that makes sense. So we still have a race on our hands, even though Biden's been having crushing leads, we still have a race on our hands, and the situation is very volatile. And if Trump decides randomly to do a UBI and he crushes Biden in the debates, buckle up, it can get weird.